Cup of tea? No? Alright. Don't mind me while I pour myself a cup. This is one thing that has grown on me since I've come to London. It's the English love of a cup of tea. Particularly good tea. What I am drinking here is South African KwaZulu. This specialty tea can be found at Selfridges, and it tastes really good. I just can't go back to your typical PG Tips or Tetleys or even Twinings. It just doesn't compare. Very nice indeed.
Just like a star across my sky, just like an angel off the page, you have appeared to my life. Feel like I'll never be the same, just like a song.
So, today is my 2-year anniversary in London. It's been exactly 2 years today since I flew over from Sydney, Australia, to London, United Kingdom. I can't believe 2 years has gone by so quickly. When I was planning on coming here, my initial plan was only to come for a year, maybe a year and a half, or even 2 years if, I really liked it or something. So, yeah, like so many other Aussies that have come over here, that pretty much went out the window. I guess 2 years can go by quicker than you think, and it doesn't seem like a very long time to experience living in a place. I really feel like I've only just settled down into life here in London, and there are so many things I still want to do here. So many places to travel in Europe, and so many opportunities, in London and what you can do here. So I think I'm going to be here for a little bit longer. My friends back home keep asking me, when am I coming home? Am I coming home yet? Even my parents are like, oh, when are you coming home? But I'm like, oh, not yet, not yet. So, yeah, I guess the answer is not yet. So, as I said a week ago in my last vlog, I wanted to make a vlog today marking the occasion of my 2-year anniversary in London. I wanted to talk about what my life has been like for the last 2 years here in London, what I thought of London when I first arrived here and how that's changed over the last 2 years, and yeah, I guess the differences between London and Sydney that I found personally, and yeah, just the pros and cons of being in London. So, okay, I am so not going to remember all that. So what I've done here is I've written out myself some notes, the first impressions of London, and yeah, so don't mind me if I occasionally look down at these notes. Okay, first impressions and experiences of London. I had to go back and read my weblog to, I guess, refresh my memory about these things. It's been quite a long time, and it was quite funny actually reading my blog when I first arrived in London, and I'm actually quite glad that I kept a blog back then, because it reminded me of how I felt, what it was like. It was almost like reliving the experience. So some of my first impressions of London, well, one thing I remember very clearly, when my auntie picked me up from the airport, it was like 6:30 in the morning that my plane arrived. I just had something like 22 hours of flying. I was pretty tired, but one thing I noticed was that the houses, they all looked different. They all looked old, this kind of cottage English style of housing, and they're all really close together, and yeah, they just looked really different from Sydney. So that was the first thing I noticed. Of course, another thing I noticed was the weather. It was definitely colder than Sydney. I think the day I arrived, the weather was actually quite nice. It was probably 12 degrees or so. Blue skies, fluffy white clouds, sunshine. But yes, I definitely felt the chill. And over my first few weeks in London in May 2005, the weather was around 8 to 14 degrees and I was freezing. So another of my impressions of London, I thought the transport system was really good. The tube, you can get anywhere, you know, there are buses going everywhere as well, there are trains. It was really, really complicated, and I couldn't live without, firstly, my tube map, and secondly, my A to Z. But, you know, London compared to Sydney has a much, much more efficient transport system than Sydney. Sydney, you basically can't live without a car, pretty much. But in London, you can get pretty much anywhere and, you know, not miss having a car. As much as I complain and groan and gripe about the tube running late, signalling problems, trains getting cancelled and stuff, it's actually a lot better than Sydney. Yeah, where I lived in Sydney, during peak time, the trains would come every 15 minutes, and during off-peak time, maybe once every half hour or even once an hour. So, yeah, that pretty much sucked. Okay, what else? Another impression, I thought the food sucked in London. I was pretty much living on toasted panini sandwiches and sandwich rolls and basically sandwiches, and I hate sandwiches. You know, I'm a Chinese girl that has grown up, you know, eating cooked Asian food all the time, even at lunch. And I really, really missed all the Asian food that we could get in Sydney, especially the Japanese food. I really missed my sushi bars and ramen noodle restaurants and all that. You know, I used to have Japanese pretty much about 3 times a week in Sydney, and now in London I almost never have Japanese unless I cook it myself, which I will come to that later. Okay, moving right along. Another initial experience of London was the whole experience of being alone. Coming from Sydney, I had heaps of friends, lived with my parents, family, my brother, yeah, and it was just such a stark contrast coming here by myself. I had no friends, I had nobody on my phone contact list that I could call, and yeah, I guess that was very new, and it took me a bit to get used to the whole spending all my time alone, experiencing everything alone, and yeah, I got pretty down about it sometimes. I'm not the type of person that really handles being alone very well, and yeah, adjusting life without parents and friends to just hang out with wasn't easy. So yeah, another impression I have of London, there's better chocolate here, definitely, and I think that's just the European experience. It must be all that Belgian and Swiss chocolate that they import over here, but even the Magnums in London taste better than the Magnums in Sydney. It's just weird. I don't know why. Chocolate just tastes so much better. Yeah, in the first 2 weeks that I arrived here, I was pretty excited about the newness of everything. I was like, you know, the gawking tourist, going around taking pictures and wowing at absolutely everything. And it wasn't until about 2 weeks later that that initial excitement kind of wore off, and homesickness set in. And yeah, I remember about 2 and a bit weeks, I just suddenly felt really homesick for my parents and my friends, and yeah, I got pretty depressed and I was crying a lot and everything like that. So yeah, that wasn't fun. But you know, I managed to adjust and move on and stuff. What else? Oh yes, with the whole newness of everything, and I don't know, it must be some weird psychological thing of being somewhere unfamiliar, but I found that my appetite increased like tenfold. I was hungry all the time, and I ate so much. So I found myself putting on a few kilos, and I just couldn't stop myself eating all the time. So I think that's something that has, you know, gone now. But I think, yeah, it's definitely a psychological thing that food is a source of comfort, and it's something that's familiar. And when you're somewhere unfamiliar, yeah, you kind of, yeah, take comfort in the familiar. So yeah, my final initial experience of London was not a pleasant one. I had 2 injuries within the first month of coming here. One was a sprained ankle, and another was UTI. Anyway, so I'm not going to elaborate on that because that's probably too much information.